Good evening and welcome. Live tonight on the latest from 7 News. Breaking right now. Rolf Harris dies in England at the age of 93. The disgraced entertainer succumbs to neck cancer. Also tonight, rock star reception. Narendra Modi, the main act at a stadium speech, a full house of adoring fans. Prince Harry out of luck at the High Court. New developments on his police protection case. And a credible tip-off takes the Maddie McCann search back to a dam. A forensic dive happening now. Will go live to Portugal on that.
The latest from 7 News with Michael Usher.
OK, that breaking news first. Australian-born entertainer Rolf Harris has died at the age of 93 in the United Kingdom after a battle with neck cancer. He enjoyed a decades-long career in showbiz, as we all know, before he was convicted in 2014 of the sexual assault of underage girls. His death comes 2 weeks after an ambulance was photographed outside his house with reports he'd been gravely ill for some time. Late last year, it was revealed Harris had been severely unwell and struggled to communicate. Harris lived with his wife, who suffers from Alzheimer's, the couple needing round-the-clock care from nurses and various people who came into the home. His family released a statement saying he was surrounded by family and friends and of interest has now already been laid to rest. Let's go straight to London. Our Europe correspondent Sarah Greenhalgh is across this, where it's literally broken in the last half hour. Sarah, what are we learning?
Michael, good evening. It is a registrar, we're being told, at the Maidenhead Town Hall who has confirmed this news that Rolf Harris has died. For the past few years, he lived as a recluse, as you alluded to there, with his wife at their home in Berkshire on the banks of the Thames, which is west of London. Obviously, he had a stellar career, as we know. He was born in Perth. He was a champion schoolboy swimmer. He then moved to London at the age of 22 and found fame with his unique brand of Australian as a singer and as an entertainer, but then that has all been completely overshadowed by his criminal convictions. So he was investigated, and it was revealed in 2013 that he had been charged with indecent assault as part of the wider investigation into British personality and pedophile Jimmy Savile. Then, as you say, in 2014, he was convicted of assaulting 4 girls, the youngest victim just 7 years of age. One of the victims was his daughter's childhood best friend. He was sentenced to 5 years and 9 months in prison. He was moved around various jails, presumably for safety concerns. He only served, though, just under 3 years of that sentence before he was released on parole, and that is when he went and returned to his mansion. He was reportedly worth 25 million Australian dollars, even after all of that criminal history. As you mentioned, the interesting part here is that there is a photograph of a private ambulance at his residence on the 11th of May. That statement from the family says he has been laid to rest, so presumably he did pass away quite some time ago, but this has only come to light, as you say, in about the past half an hour. So no doubt more reaction. He was stripped of all of his various honours over the years, after ruining the lives of his victims. After he was convicted also, there were subsequently 2 trials. More alleged victims came forward, but the juries couldn't reach verdicts. It was a huge fall from grace. He painted the Queen's portrait for her 80th birthday back in 2005. It was hanging on the walls of Buckingham Palace, but he will be remembered as a sex offender and pedophile who ruined the lives of these young girls, Michael.
He will indeed, and it's extraordinary, just recapping as we've done very quickly in the last few minutes here, Sarah, you mentioned the heights of his career. This was the boy from Bassendean, the boy from Perth, who rose to the top of the entertainment world in this country and in the United Kingdom. If you run through the list of his shows, the Rolf on Saturday OK, the Rolf Harris Cartoon Club, Rolf's Cartoon Time, as you mentioned, painting the picture for the Queen at her 80th, Rolf on Art. He was a comical painter, but also a fine artist. Some of his paintings would sometimes sell for £90,000 in Harrods, believe it or not. And this is quite extraordinary. In 1985, Rolf Harris presented a 20-minute child abuse prevention video called Kids Can Say No. He was everywhere in the United Kingdom. The Queen adored him. There's that documentary which shows her sitting in session for that portrait where she's happily in conversation with him. Yet there was this revolting dark side to this entertainer that was eventually found out.
Absolutely. And just to give you an indication of how many honours he was stripped of, it was an MBE, an OBE, a CBE, his BAFTA fellowship, his honorary university doctorates. They were all revoked after his conviction. So a spectacular fall from grace. And it was his position as this beloved, trusted entertainer and figure, as you say, respected by even Her Majesty the Queen, that put him in this position where he was able to abuse these innocent victims. And no matter all of this history there is there with Princess Anne, this is ultimately what he will be remembered for. And the people who, some of the reporters actually, I've just noticed who covered his trial, who covered both of his trials, said that even though he maintained his innocence, he showed no remorse throughout all of that process. And I think that speaks volumes as well.
You know, it's an interesting thing, Sarah. I'm very mindful that as we're sitting here talking about this, there may well be some Australians in this country watching this with a terrible sense of dread tonight, even looking at the images of Rolf Harris. I mean, in the entertainment and the media business, there were stories for years from makeup departments, wardrobe departments, of every time Rolf Harris would visit, they would shudder because of his attitude toward them. And some of those women have now come forward only in recent times. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying there was a documentary that only aired in the past couple of weeks in the United Kingdom involving some of those new victims coming forward saying that they were treated appallingly by him and obviously held him in the absolute lowest of regard. But a significant passing today, and remembered for rightfully for all the wrong things along the path of his incredible highs of his career, Sarah.
And there's only a documentary that's just come out here, actually, Michael, on ITVX very, very recently, outlining some of that as well. As you say, obviously this is what he will be remembered for, but then I guess on the flip side is that his family always supported him. So he attended that trial every day in 2014. He was usually with his wife and his niece, and his daughter Bindi stuck with him through much of that ordeal as well, even though it was one of her best friends as a child who was abused by her father.
Well,
so,
that family loyalty was always in stark contrast to the terrible evidence that was delivered during those various court proceedings and what he was eventually sent to jail for as well. Anyway, there will be many reflections on this person's career, but as you said, this has just broken in the last half hour. So Sarah Greenwich, thank you for that. And we may well, in the course of this bulletin, come back to some more reflections on Rolf Harris as well. As we said, breaking news, the death of Rolf Harris in the United Kingdom at the age of 93. Sarah, thank you for that. Well, moving on to news here and a very big show in Sydney tonight. Rarely do Prime Ministers attract this level of fanfare. The leader of India tonight speaking at a packed stadium with our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. Let's take you live to Amy Clements in Sydney. Amy, this was quite a turnout. How many people were there for Mr Modi?
Michael, 20,000 people gave Narendra Modi a round